Well, it's that time again. House of the Dragons, episode 5, season 1 is here, and it's time to talk this episode in full spoiler detail. Now, can we just take a moment of silence? Because this is, I think, from my understanding, the final episode with Millie Alcock and Emily Carey, as of course, young Queen Alicent and young Princess Rhaenyra. So, a moment of silence. All right, we're good. I'm definitely going to miss both of them if this is for sure the last time we've ever seen them. And when they do disappear, I'm still going to be very sad about it. I'm interested to see the next actors that take their place. I know Olivia Cook's been taking Alicent Hightower, and I think Eve Best is taking Princess Rhaenyra's next part. But those two actresses are so good. And this episode in particular, each episode of House of the Dragons just keeps getting that damn good. Like, episode 3 is still probably my favorite one, but if we were looking at the next best one, it would probably be this one. Last week's episode established all the horniness in the entire kingdom of Westeros going on, and everything kind of going on behind the scenes, and of course ending with the plan B of Westeros, and pretty much the king saying, you're being married off to this person. It does not matter anymore. This is what you're going to do. And I found that to be incredible, because the fact that they're really much now, he's not giving her a choice anymore. She's going to be marrying Valerian, and that's it. Oh man, this episode was a lot. So just to kind of get into this, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And if you're new here, I love talking House of the Dragons. I love being a geek. And if you're a geek, you're probably in the right place. So make sure, again, hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below your guys' thoughts. How excited are for you for this episode? Did you like this? Did you not? What was your favorite moment? What did you think of that ending? It just keeps getting more and more fucked up as it goes on. So really, I want to talk about the dance sequence, the whole thing leading into the wedding, but I know we got to take our time building to there and really focusing in on a couple different aspects. Of course, let's talk about them actually going over and him kind of saying, hey, this is my thing. I want my daughter to marry your son. There's a lot of elements in there. Of course, the king is getting very sickly. We've seen over the last couple of episodes that this is continuing to happen, and this only continues more in this strive. And I've been very interested to see how King Viserys and when he's going to finally fall and kind of lose his entire life. But the more interesting aspect for me in here were a couple undertones that we had here. Of course, he goes to bed and, you know, he has to rest himself up, but it's really much the king and queen here where they have this conversation. And they have the conversation and they give that look, because Rhaenyra is pretty much trying to make a deal with her future king, saying, hey, I know this ain't the way that you probably swing, but this ain't the way that I want to swing. So let's just do what we need to do, and we can just do our own things on the side when time comes to be. And, you know, that's something that Rhaenyra and him are trying to make a peace to. They're trying to make their own pleasantries to. And Rhaenyra is always trying to scheme. And that's something that's always some of the best aspects of Game of Thrones is the characters. Every character has their own motivation. They're all ran by selfishness. And in a way, I would argue the only two characters who are not selfish, and I go as far as to say this, is Emily Carey's Queen Alicent Hightower. As of at least right now, I think that's going to start changing due to the revelation she finds out in this episode, and Viserys Targaryen. I think for the most part, he just wants the best for his daughter, and the best for his queen, and the best for his kingdom. I think he is one of the only non-selfish characters in this story. Everyone else is gaming for something. Even Rhaenyra, the main character that we are literally cheering on. And when we look at this, and she makes that deal, and of course then the king, the father of Valerian, is pretty much just saying, hey, like, maybe, you know, he'll grow out of it. But obviously that's not what we know. We know he's not going to. And we meet his lover and all those elements, and then it kind of fast forwards and they're heading back. And then, of course, Rhaenyra has this discussion with Sir Criston, her knight in shining white armor. And he's pretty much like, let's just run away. We can escape. You don't have to do this anymore. But yada, yada, yada. But we know deep down, Rhaenyra likes this power. She wants this power. She wants it. And Criston does not want to be her whore. And I like that, because it really adds tension and builds towards the climactic dance, which was one of the most engaging and also just suffering and intense situations that I think has happened in House of the Dragons lately. And that entire sequence, it just was waiting and waiting for something huge to happen. And when it leads into that finale, you're just like, holy shit. But again, I keep trying to skip to there and I shouldn't be. So leading into that, of course, she calls Sir Kristen, Queen Alyssa does, and she's trying to have this conversation with him, telling him, hey, like, I know something's going on here. This is the rumors. I want to know what you've seen, because he's kind of always with Rhaenyra. And right in that moment, he gives up their fucking around. Not that he knows about Daemon. And I was sitting there for a second. I'm like, oh God, is she going to say Daemon? But she doesn't. She notices that Rhaenyra's been fucking around multiple times, which is not something that anyone else knows, which now leads into that whole thing, which leads her to knowing this knowledge, and that's something to hold up. And I gotta give credit. I think Emily Carey was amazing in this episode. I think she is one of the best aspects of this entire episode, and surely enough, some of the stronger moments. Like, she gave a lot into this, and I was quite startled by her performance. I thought she was phenomenal in this, and I think a lot of shout out needs to be given to her. I don't think she's been given a lot to do so far, so this was a great endeavor, and this moment was important. But then this all builds to the the feast before the 7 days of tournaments, and then the day of marriage, and it just turns into shit real fast. Of course, all the Lannisters, the people, this is all showing up. And one thing to kind of put in the frame that I didn't even mention is Daemon's wife's dead. She died because of Daemon. And her cousin's there. And that's not good, because he's pissed at Daemon. So this all builds in, because everyone's kind of leading this out. Daemon shows up. He gets a seat at the table, which was fucking insane. And when they're all sitting at that table, of course, the Valerians come and they sit at the table, and it's just a feast, a nice little feast. And the king gets up and he starts making, knowledge to the world and giving his speech, and then his queen interrupts him, which then that does not look good on his part. And that's just kind of like the first, pin in this entire feast of shit. I guess technically Daemon showing up would be the first pin, but definitely this one was the next. And then it just gets worse and worse, because then the dancing begins. Then everyone starts dancing. Then Daemon tells this fucker to hey, I'm gonna pretty much inherit everything that you have, so I'm coming for everything, just like that Andrew Garfield scene from Social Network. Then it switches over, and of course, you can just tell the queen, the king, the other Valerian king and queen are just watching them dance and just seeing how this all goes, because they all know internally all their own fucked up shit in the past. And it's just, again, building and building and building towards shit. You see, of course, this dude's lover watching around, seeing that the knight kind of picking that off, then, telling him, and then him going to have the conversation with Sir Kristen, which that does not end well. And I knew that was not going to end well. And then Daemon goes down and starts dancing with them, flirting with the fucking 12-year-olds, but now is older. That gets weird. And it just goes and goes, and then he's sitting there, and then they're talking in their own language, him and Rhaenyra, and it just builds, because you see him put his face. The king gets up, screams happen, and that redheaded dude, Kristen, is just beating the shit out of to death. No one can stop him. And it really just kills everything. It kills, Leonor Valeria's, or Valerian. God damn, I'm bad with these names sometimes. I'm trying to read them and talk to you guys at the same time. But it's his lover. He's dead. And that kills it. Kills the entire mood. Fuck the jousting. Fuck the tournaments. You don't got any of that anymore when this happens. And, yeah. They clean up. And pretty much in the middle of their wedding, they're just doing the wedding now. And Sir Kristen's going to kill himself, because, yeah, you just can't live with the bear of all this stuff. It's just very bad. And it just, again, in those moments, he doesn't end up killing himself, because Alyssa Hightower shows up and says Sir Kristen, and it stops there. But the other thing that happens is the king falls, and that's it. I mean, it really leads into all these phenomenons. The king has fallen. They are married. And he does not want her. I mean, he didn't even kiss her on the lips. He just kissed him on the cheek. And it's just a mess. And I think the way that the episode ends with the camera backing out and the blood on the floor and the rat licking up the blood really adds to all avenues that this show really develops and gives. And this is, again, one of the best shows on television right now. At the end of the day, this might end up being one of my favorite things from 2022. Not my favorite show yet. I still have two things above this, but this is like top tier stuff, and I love it. I can't wait for next week, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts. So thank you so much again for watching this. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below. Again, I'm just a novice when it comes down to this world. I just like talking House of the Dragons, Game of Thrones, and just being a geek here. So if you're also kind of the same way, you're definitely in the right place. So thank you so much again for watching. And of course, until next time, stay classy.